Hello and welcome to Congressman Henry Cuellar's Capitol Report. Your voice from Washington for the 28th District of Texas.
Every day, taxpayers interact with the federal government on a regular basis, whether it's through the passport services, student loans through the direct loan program to pay for higher education.
Every month, we bring home to you the issues that matter the most. And now, here's your update from the nation's capital. Hello and welcome to the latest installment of Congressman Henry Cuellar's Capitol Report, bringing the latest issues in Washington straight to you. This month, we will be speaking directly to the veterans of the 28th District of Texas and providing more information about some of the resources available to them to get their health care. Congressman Henry Cuellar, thank you for joining the program today. We have a special guest today from TriWest Healthcare Alliance, which is a company that partners with the VA to provide health care to veterans. Mr. Bill Cahill, thank you for joining us today as well.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Congressman, could you tell us a little bit about veterans in your district, which we know ranges from San Antonio to Laredo, the Rio Grande Valley, and some of the issues that they may be facing?
Yes. Well, first of all, I want to thank Bill and his company, TriWest. They have a lot of experience. They have a lot of expertise that I think will be tremendous to provide more efficiencies and better services to our veterans. The veterans in the 28th Congressional District, as you know, it goes from northeast San Antonio all the way to Laredo, and in between you have the rural areas, the Eagle Ford area, as I can say that. And then from Laredo, you go down to Zapata, Starr County, all the way down to Hidalgo. So you got urban areas, you got rural areas, and of course, you got the the facilities in San Antonio that have existed there for a long time. But now you have some of the work that we've done in the Valley and Laredo to provide better services. So we are going to complement and supplement the work that a lot of us have been working on. I remember when I was, years ago, when we added some of the largest amount of money for the VA, you had folks like Chet Edwards. Chet Edwards, member of Congress that did a great job as a subcommittee chairman dealing with the military, dealing with the veterans, and we're trying to build on the work that Chet Edwards and other folks did when we were in Congress, and we added those resources. Now we're trying to address the issues of efficiencies and better service, customer service to our veterans, and at the end of the day, the test should be what's in the best interest of the veteran, and I think this is where TriWest comes in at this time.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Congressman. Bill, thank you again for joining the program today. For our viewers in the 28th District, can you tell us a little bit about TriWest and what it does, who it serves, how it works?
Be glad to. Thank you. First of all, Congressman, thank you for having me here today. It's a real honor, and I mean, to work with you and to have a man that has such a bipartisan reputation around here. It's wonderful to still see so few of you, but those who stand up tall and work so hard for veterans. I really appreciate what you've done over the years, and I hope that what TriWest does in your district and around the state of Texas is a testament to the efforts you've put in over the years to get care closer to home for veterans. So TriWest was formed about 18 years ago by a number of nonprofit Blue Cross Blue Shield and university health systems to form a company that could serve the TRICARE program, the military and veterans health systems. And we did the TRICARE program throughout the western United States. We served the Department of Defense in that West Texas, not all of Texas at that point, mostly El Paso area. But we did that for about 17 years, and recently we're awarded this contract to work with VA. And I hope some of the news lately makes this a timely program that VA can deliver better care and closer to home.
So what are TriWest's goals and what is it doing to achieve them, especially in Texas?
So TriWest goals are to bring care closer to veterans, closer to their homes, to reduce the amount of travel they have to do. And our real goal is to serve VA in augmenting the care that either they can't provide or that they can't timely and more closely provide. So that veterans in Laredo are not having to travel all the way up to San Antonio, which I know is a wonderful town, but it is a long way to go for health care. Our goals are to make the veterans' experience seamless and satisfactory with a quality health care provider in the communities throughout the 28th District and really throughout the region that we serve.
So I know that TriWest has many regions throughout the country. Can you tell us a little bit more about the region that Texas is in and how it works with the other states?
Yes, I can. So the Department of Veterans Affairs, I'll say, broke up the country for purposes of management into to 6 regions, really 5. Alaska is its own region, but it's always its own thing, right? So, but in the Texas area, VISN 17, the Veterans Integrated Service Network number 17, which serves the area that is in your district, is in what's called Region 3, and it basically is managed through a regional area that includes Louisiana, Mississippi, some of Tennessee, a little bit of western Florida and the Panhandle up there, but we do have market areas, and we concentrate heavily for the Harlingen and San Antonio in serving that South Texas, the Valley area, to make sure that we can coordinate care with those hospitals, providers, pay them on time, make sure they're fairly compensated, and the veterans get the health care that they need. And so that's how we've sort of divided our markets. We have individual service area personnel that work directly with those local facilities.
Yeah, and I think one of the things you hit on, Bill, is so important. You know, one of the things that we have worked on down in the Laredo area in the Valley is to get the private providers to provide the services. But an issue that we've seen is that the VA is not paying them on time. So you can have private providers, but if they're not getting paid, what are they going to do, Bill? They're going to say, I'm not going to do it.
Yes,
you know, let's get somebody else. So I think this is where TriWest will come in to make sure we have the private providers and then at the same time make sure they're paid. In the Valley, one of the things that we've done is, of course, they have the 3-day stays, for example, for veterans. In Laredo, we've been, I've been pushing that for a long time. So I'm hoping that TriWest will help us because this is something I think for the last 5 years, we've been working with VA and they are trying to get to it. So hopefully with the experience that TriWest will come in and Laredo will have that. I think that's the last component that we're missing in Laredo, because we do have providers, doctors and other folks that provide the assistance, but we got to work on the prompt pay. But the other thing is the hospital stay, and I think this is something that I look forward working with TriWest so we can finally, in Laredo, a city of 250,000 individuals can, if they have to do let's say a 3-day stay in one of the hospitals in Laredo, they can do that. If they have to go for something a little bit more, they can of course go to San Antonio. This is where I think TriWest will be tremendously helpful.
Thank you, Congressman. And Bill, you mentioned another issue of accessibility to VA clinics and having to travel long distances. Congressman, I know this is a major issue in your district. Can you provide our viewers a little more information?
The changes we made, and we're going to improve this with TriWest, I think and pretty much over 90% of the trips that veterans used to make from Laredo or the Valley, and imagine this, from Laredo you got to travel 150 miles. And lately, with all the Eagle Ford activity, not only do you have the trade of the 18-wheelers, but now you have oil and gas vehicles coming in. So it's a long trip that they have to take. Think about the gasoline, think about the time away from the families, and certainly if we can provide more care at home, the better it is. And that's coming from Laredo. Imagine the Valley, you're talking about 3.5 hours, 4 hours. So we've cut a lot of those services, but I think we can even do better than 90%. And this is where TriWest, I think, will come in. And this is why I'm really excited about having TriWest to come in.
Thank you, Congressman. And Bill, do you have anything to add to that about what TriWest is doing to minimize travel distance for veterans?
Well, I think the Congressman has started the effort because the program that VA has created does start with them. They have to first say the veteran should have care closer to home. And that decision is happening more often now, thanks to efforts by Congressman Cuellar and many of your colleagues saying, look, 4 and 5 hours is just too far to drive, 3 and 4 hours for healthcare services. Veterans need to be closer to their family members. So once that happens, it's our job to have that network of providers in those specialties, in those gastroenterologies, in those dermatologies, and the hospitals that will see those veterans. And while they may not love federal rates, they'll do it because it's the right thing to do for veterans and because we'll pay them. They can live with it if we'll pay them. And so that's our job, and we want to make sure that if we're not, he'll let us know.
And the other thing is, and it's, you're correct about that. The times I've talked to the, to the providers, they'll say, well, the pay is not that good, but we know as long as it's a stable pay and as long as we're going to get paid on time, they'll do it because they want to help the veterans. And yeah. I know I was just talking to Tina Trevino in Laredo about this issue. She says, look, we'll be happy to do it. but are we going to get paid on time? Right. Are we going to get the services? They want to provide the services, but at the same time, they want to have some sort of stability and predictability. And I believe this is where TriWest will come in itself. And let me just mention one more thing. The more services we can provide at home, let's say in Laredo and the Valley, the better it is for all veterans. One, it's a win-win situation for the veterans in Laredo and the Valley in the sense that they get provided service at home. They save time, gas, money, time away from the, they don't have to spend time away from the family. But the other thing is, think about the veterans up there in the north part of San Antonio. At one time, they were not only making the appointments for the San Antonio veterans, but you had people coming in from Laredo, you had people coming down from the Valley, so you had a larger number of people. Now, a lot of them can stay in Laredo, get services at home. Valley, you can get services at home. So the veterans now in the San Antonio, there's less people competing for those appointments. As you know, appointments have been an issue in the news lately with the VA. So it's a win-win situation for the San Antonio area, for the rural areas, for the Laredo areas, and of course, for the Valley area.
Where can our viewers get more information about the services that TriWest offers?
So TriWest has a website, www.triwest.com. And while TriWest runs a few programs, along the bottom you'll find one for a click for veterans, and it'll take you to our /PCCC website, which is the Patient-Centered Community Care Program. That's what the VA has called this initiative, which is perfect, right? Getting care closer to home in a patient-centered fashion. They can go there and seek more information, or you can call us at 855-PCCC-VET. And there is a call center there that can answer your questions about what it would take to access services.
Could you repeat that number one more time for our viewers?
You bet. It's 855-PCCC-VET.
Excellent. Thank you.
Can I, I'm sorry to ask you a question, but I hope that TriWest, and I'm sure you all are going to be doing this, but any meetings that you can set up with veteran groups would be very helpful. Any meetings with the providers, and you probably have done that already and with your vast experience, but with the providers so they understand what the rules are, and of course with the veterans, because there's been experiences, as you know, the VA has come under attack, all across the nation. But any outreach that y'all can continue doing will be greatly appreciated.
Well, and I appreciate the suggestion. And, TriWest, we actually, my CEO and I met with the DAV, PVA, the VFW, and the Legion. We have gone in to see the major veterans organizations. We've also met with the military coalition here in town to make sure that all those members in those organizations understand the program. And I know VA is outreaching to them as well. Getting down into the community, we certainly would be happy to work with your local office or even with you, sir, to make sure your local veterans community leaders are aware of the program, if we can do that.
We'll do that. And we'll be happy to do that, because I know we've had different meetings with providers. We've had different meetings with the veterans. And as you know, every community is different.
Yes, sir.
San Antonio, it's the same issues. We're trying to address and help the veterans, but they're a little different because they got better facilities than the rural areas or in the Laredo area in the Valley. So love to have you go down there and meet with the veterans in Laredo and the Valley, in the rural areas, and be happy. I think once they understand the background, the experience that y'all bring, especially the experience, because it's 18 years work that y'all have been doing brings you a lot of experience.
It does, and we're privileged to, as I mentioned at the outset of the program, that TriWest is owned by a number of nonprofit Blue Cross Blue Shield plans, and since our inception, one of those has been Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas. So we have long, vast experience with that program in Texas. And what's great about the relationship we have is that the Blue Cross plan has such a long history with the providers in the community, having started from associations of doctors and hospitals. So, they can help us make those good introductions in communities where we may be newer. TriWest is a company that serves this constituency alone. So we're not selling commercial insurance and having those regular relations. Sometimes that's a good thing with us for providers, right? So it's a very good way we can work together with the provider community and engage with your veterans too, in Laredo, in the Valley, and in San Antonio too.
Yes, sir.
Certainly the beautiful rural areas in between.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Bill.
So I know you touched on this at the beginning, Bill, but can you explain again to our veterans watching at home how exactly TriWest works with the VA, especially with some of the clinics that we have? what the veterans experience when they walk in. How does TriWest affect their everyday experience?
And before you answer that, just so you understand, you got the San Antonio area, you got the hospital there. In Laredo, we just again going back to the monies that we added when our good friend Chet Edwards was the chairman of that. We added money for the VA, and we now have doubled the space and did the partnership with the UT Health Center in Laredo. So it's a larger facility, beautiful building. We just got to work on those services. And then down in McAllen, the expansion also. Of course, down in the Harlingen area, we have this beautiful facility that's almost a hospital because, as you know, there's been a push for the hospital. The only thing missing there is emergency room, but everything else, the facility, and I encourage our veterans in the Valley to go see the facility in Harlingen. It's a great facility. The only thing missing is an emergency room, and it's a hospital down there.
Absolutely.
So, just I wanted to make sure, and you all are familiar, but just so everybody understands, there's different infrastructure in each of those areas. In the rural areas, what we've done is we actually got some vans. Not vans, actually vans to transport people. Those were in the good old days where we used to have earmarks on that. But we also have the mobile vans, if I can say, they're mobile homes, if I can use that term, that actually have the PAs and other assistants, and they go down to rural areas, whether it's in Zapata or Stark County. They'll go and provide services. So the veterans set up those appointments, and we'll go into the rural areas to provide some of the health care in the rural area. So just to give you the infrastructure. And
well, I'll say, I want to give VA some credit here, and Secretary Shinseki and his team when he was there for the forward-thinking idea they had with this PC3 program, because the idea of the program is to make sure that we leverage first the assets that VA has created, whether it's I'll call them Uber clinics in Harlingen, or in fact an unhospital. That's all right. So, or whether it's down in Laredo and the clinic and community they've built down there in McAllen, they can do what they can do in-house and continue to leverage those good, dedicated VA employees that for years have served veterans in those communities. And I give the Office of Rural Health and VA credit for that mobile clinic, I think is what you're talking about, that they send out around to these rural areas. Those clinics and those facilities continue to do what they were created to do. But as you well know, in many more instances now that healthcare has gotten a little more complex, the machines, the technology, it can't be everything everywhere. And so VA created this program. So to answer your question, when VA sees a patient and that patient needs a specialty care referral, whether they need a gastroenterology visit or a dermatology consult or an orthopedic or neurology, and they can't do it, either because they don't have it at the local facility, or they have it but they're overwhelmed with a patient base that needs more of them than they can provide, they call us. We've got a sizable call center. We actually recently hired 100 new people in our call center because of the changes that are going on in VA and the need for a little more outlet for care. They call us. We make the appointment for the veteran. We get in touch with the veteran on the phone. We make the appointment for the veteran with the provider. We follow up with the provider to make sure the veteran went to the appointment, which is a big issue to VA. For a long time, they never knew if veterans actually went to appointments outside the system. And then most importantly, we get medical information back from that appointment and send it back to VA so that when the veteran returns to his or her primary care doctor, it's there. They know what happened to them. And then most importantly to those local providers, we pay them. They send the claim to TriWest and we pay them. And so that's the basic process for how TriWest interacts with VA and then serves the veteran. We're attached to the veteran after the VA calls us and says, we need help treating this veteran. We can't do it here at this local facility.
And how does an eligible veteran enroll in these programs?
So eligible veterans enroll directly to VA. TriWest, unlike the TRICARE program, there's not an actual enroll with TriWest in the PC3, as they call it, PCCC, PC3 program. You enroll with your VA, filling out your 1010 EZ form, submitting it online or mailing it, and then once you become an eligible veteran and you seek care from VA, if they can't do it, they send it through to this system. And I will say, when we started this program in January, they sent about 2,500 cases in the first month. Last month, it was nearly 15,000. So as the need for the program has grown, as our network has grown, as the maturity has grown, the use of it has grown, which is great because that means more care closer to home for veterans. And as you mentioned, sir, a little more space in that San Antonio facility to take care of those guys and women from that area.
So true. Thank you.
So the program, you said, just started in January?
Yes.
Excellent. And it's grown exponentially, it seems, since then.
Exponentially. It hasn't been 5-hour days, I can assure you. So, but it's been rewarding, right? I mean, watching that continued growth in local service occur and watching more providers be willing to do it, understand what we're doing, and say, hey, I'll do that. I can take a few of those veterans. That'd be great. So it has been some growth, yes.
Excellent. Congressman, I know that you've had a lot of conversation with veterans in your districts, with providers, and you've been working hard in Congress to provide more resources to reduce some of the claims backlog that a lot of veterans are confronting. What are some of the other challenges that you've heard voiced to you faced by veterans or providers in your district?
Well, I think we covered pretty much all of them, but in the sense that certainly from veterans, depending where they're at, they certainly want to get their appointments as soon as possible. They certainly want to have customer service. Like anybody, you want to be treated correctly. And of course, the other thing is if they go to a private provider that's a specialist, then they don't want to hear from the specialist say, well, the VA hasn't paid me, and I don't know if I'm going to treat you next time. And it puts the veterans in a very difficult situation because they're going over for service, and then they hear from the doctor saying, well, the VA hasn't paid me, so this might be the last time. And that's not the right atmosphere. You want to put somebody who's elderly sometimes, who might be ill, and the last thing they want to say, hey, the VA is not paying us. So it's the environment that we just need to fix. And certainly, in talking to vendors, they've talked about, just the other day, I talked to a hospital in the Valley, no names mentioned, but millions of dollars are owed. And they're saying, hey, we're going to continue working with the VA, but the last time we talked to you, Congressman, the VA said they were going to take, they're going to work on this issue, and guess what? The number has grown larger. So it's a difficult issue, and I hope that working with TriWest we can expedite this process, because again, we want to bring specialists in, we want to bring hospitals in. And once they negotiate a price, a rate, and as long as they do the paperwork correctly, and then at that time, then they should be paid, and that way the system will work better. Because otherwise, you hear complaints from the vendors, you hear complaints from the vendors. We have done so much to improve what used to be in Texas. Down there in South Texas, in Laredo. They would only handle a couple things at the VA, and everything, blood tests, almost everything would have to go to San Antonio. Simple tests would have to go. Right. You're going to travel 150 miles, then another 150 miles, maybe spend a night at a hotel in San Antonio for things that can be done in Laredo. We've improved all that, but now we got to work out the little hiccups in the system. Well, that's where you come in.
Yes, sir. And I will say, I'm grateful because we have encountered some of those issues as we approach providers to join the TriWest network. We have encountered some, no names to mention, but who've said, listen, I'd love to, but VA owes me money. Yeah. And to VA's credit, they have given us a direct contact with their business office when those instances occur to say, call me, I'll go work that out. It shouldn't become a hindrance, because some of them say, hey, we don't want to join your network either until we get the backlog over here resolved. And I say, I don't have that money, but I can help you try to find it. So they've been very helpful in helping us. And to your second point, sir, I do want to say TriWest, as doing what we've done over the years, we have a wonderful caseworker that helps when I often say the last perfect human walked the earth 2,000 years ago. And we're not perfect either. And we have a caseworker. He's a wonderful guy, retired military, has been working for us for over a decade. And he is the greatest personal touch guy we have. And so when we do have those issues, we want you to know that we've got a person. I will make sure to give you his name before we leave the program show here today. And when your veterans down in Laredo or the Valley or up in San Antonio or wherever else across the 28th District have a problem, we want you to know where to go so that we can resolve it and not let it linger, because that's how the trust starts to break down, when you let those problems linger, and we don't want to do that to you or the veterans. Yeah,
and I appreciate that, because the other thing on your point about having that, addressing those issues, first of all, if you go down to the border, there's, per 100,000 individuals, or there's not enough doctors. First of all, we have a shortage of doctors and other providers. So when you have a smaller number of doctors and they've had a bad experience with the VA, that it's going to be a lot harder to get them to work with y'all because you're the new experts on the block, and we just, like you said, they got to get the bad experience with the VA and understand that they're working with a new entity that, in my opinion, will do a very good job, an excellent job, if I can say that in advance.
We hope very sincere that we live up to that. And we do, we recognize that TriWest has to provide health care. The providers do. And we need to honor their willingness to do this by treating them with respect, working with them on appointments, and paying them timely.
Yes, sir. Agreed.
Congressman, just to provide a couple thoughts to wrap up our program today, I know you've been in Congress for 10 years and you've seen a lot of things change for veterans over that time period. What are some of the major achievements that you've seen in your district, and what are you still looking at moving forward?
Well, certainly one of the things has to be that we are providing more health care closer to home. And I think that's a victory for the veterans because, again, the test should be what's in the best interest of the veterans. I think that certainly is a big plus for them. The other thing I have to mention, it doesn't have to do with health care, but, we passed a new GI Bill. A new GI Bill that provides better educational services for the veterans and the 9/11 after 9/11. What's different from the old GI Bill is under the old GI Bill that benefit applied to the veteran. The new GI Bill, if the veteran says, you know what, I want to pass that on to my spouse, or I want to pass that on to my kids, it's portable. That's something unique. So it's healthcare, education. Those are some of the basics that if you look at the GI Bill, what it did after World War II, it lifted a new generation to get the education so they can go off to college. And I think if we're able to do that, not only for the veterans that serve in Korea or World War II or whatever the conflict, but especially the young ones coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan, I think that will provide the better health services, will provide the faith that they have in the VA system, working with partners like TriWest. But I think it would also provide the educational that we need to do. It worked after World War II, and we certainly have to look at that. So again, Bill, I look forward to working with you, and I welcome you to South Texas, San Antonio, and the rural areas that we have in between.
It's an honor to be there, sir. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Congressman Cuellar, thank you for joining the program again today. Bill, thank you for joining as well. And to our viewers, thank you for watching with us this month. We were joined by TriWest Healthcare Alliance. We look forward to seeing you on the program next month.